The world's most exclusive film festival, Oblivion, was a well-kept secret, known only to the elite. It was invitation only, with screenings rumored to be so grotesque and shocking that they bordered on madness. Each year, a group of filmmakers, actors, and critics disappeared to a remote island to witness these forbidden films, and each year only a few ever returned, scarred forever. Marcus, an up-and-coming indie filmmaker with a thirst for fame, was shocked when he received an invitation. He had heard the whispers, the rumors, but he dismissed them as myth. This was his chance to catapult his career, to be recognized. He would attend, no questions asked. The festival was held in a decaying mansion on a fog-covered island miles away from civilization. As Marcus arrived, he noticed the other guests, well-known actors, directors, and producers, looking uneasy. But no one spoke about what was to come. The event began with champagne and lavish dinners, all masking an undercurrent of dread. The screenings started at midnight in an underground theater. The room was pitch black, except for the flicker of the projector. Marcus sat in the back, feeling the eerie stillness in the air. The first film played, and it was nothing like he'd ever seen. An art film showing disturbing, violent, and hyper-realistic scenes of torture. The lines between fiction and reality blurred. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats, but no one left. After all, these were the chosen ones, the elite. Fear was not an option, but Marcus felt something gnawing at him. This wasn't just shock value, there was something real in those films. As the screenings continued over the next few days, they grew more visceral, more violent. The audience watched in stunned silence as each film depicted the brutal deaths of people who looked eerily familiar. Marcus recognized some faces, famous actors who had retired from public life. They were dead in the films, tortured, mutilated in the most grotesque ways imaginable. The audience began to thin. People would disappear from their rooms, never to return. No one talked about it, but Marcus noticed the empty chairs. The festival organizers said nothing, continuing the screenings as if nothing was wrong. On the third night, the final film was announced, the final cut. It was supposed to be the masterpiece of the festival, directed by an anonymous filmmaker. Marcus sat on edge, gripping his seat as the lights dimmed. The film began with a handheld camera shakily moving through the darkened halls of a mansion. It felt disturbingly familiar. As the camera moved through the halls, Marcus's heart sank. It was this mansion, the very one they were all sitting in. The film showed the hidden rooms, the dungeons beneath the mansion, filled with shackled, screaming victims. It was a snuff film, more graphic and real than anything they'd seen before. Then came the ultimate shock. The camera turned a corner, entering the theater they were sitting in. The audience in the film looked eerily similar to the real audience. Same clothes, same faces. It was them. Marcus's heart raced. He began sweating, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. The film zoomed in on a specific figure, him, sitting exactly where he was now, staring at the screen in shock. Suddenly, the screen cut to black. The projector clicked off and the lights flickered back on, but something was horribly wrong. The theater was no longer the same. The seats were now stained with blood. The people around him looked different, disfigured, mutilated versions of themselves. Their eyes hollow, their mouths twisted into silent screams. Marcus looked down at his hands, covered in blood. In front of him on the stage, the festival organizers stood in a line, smiling wickedly. "Welcome to the final film, Marcus," the host said, his voice dripping with malice. "You've always been part of the show." The realization hit him like a freight train. This wasn't a festival showcasing films, it was a production. They were the actors, and the entire time, their fates had been sealed. A piercing pain shot through Marcus's head. His vision blurred. He looked down at his body, his limbs not responding. Something was controlling him. A cold, mechanical voice boomed through the theater. "You've all been watching, haven't you? But the truth is, we've been watching you." Suddenly, Marcus's body moved on its own, walking towards the stage. No matter how much he fought it, he couldn't stop. The other survivors did the same. Their bodies were puppets, controlled by invisible strings. The festival organizers began applauding. "You see, the host continued. This isn't just a festival, it's a live performance, and you, Marcus, are the star of the grand finale. Before he could scream, Marcus felt a searing heat at the back of his skull. He collapsed to the ground, writhing in agony as the world around him disintegrated. His skin burned, peeled away, revealing wires, circuits, and cold metal underneath. He wasn't human. None of them were. In his final moments, as the audience clapped and cheered, Marcus understood the terrifying truth. They had never been human. This was all an experiment. A film not of flesh and blood, but of androids programmed to believe they were alive. His mind flickered as the lights dimmed once more. The show was over, and somewhere, deep in the bowels of the mansion, the cameras were already rolling for next year's festival as new androids, new stars, were being manufactured for the slaughter.